Hello and welcome back to another video, and in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we're going to do a tutorial on how to start the A32NX from cold and dark all the way to ready for takeoff, and we'll probably do the departure too, just so you what to do once you took off. It's quite simple, but it should be quite easy to follow to be fair. So yeah, this is the A32NX, the latest update, outdated literally just 10 minutes ago. So it's the latest version as of Friday the 6th of November. And basically it's a community funded project in order to make the original A320 that came with the sim a lot closer to payware than what it originally was. And in fairness, they've done a really good job of it actually. I used to fly the A320 that was put in, was it X-Plane 11? I forgot who made it now, but it's almost there. I won't say it's far off, and considering you're not even paying for it, you cannot complain at all. If you would like me to put the link to the website in the actual bar, I'll just do it anyway, for anyone that might be interested. I'll put it in the link of the description. So yeah, we'll jump into the cockpit and we'll get it all set up. So, you're in the cockpit, you've just loaded it in, and all your screens are blank, nothing's on. So what you want to do is you want to go to the overhead panel, and you see in the middle here there's BAT 1 and BAT 2, so you want to turn on 1 and then 2. Then just down from that there's the external power, which is at the moment is available. So you want to turn that on, and you'll hear all the fans coming on, so you know you've done the right thing. There you go. So at the same time, we can then turn on the nav lights, as well as the seatbelt signs, the smoking sign, non-smoking signs. We'll arm the emergency lights, which is just one click upwards, and we can turn the packs on just about halfway. So this is for the cabin, the airflow for the cabin. And there we go. So, actually at the moment we can turn on the crew supply to oxygen. So if we come down, after doing that, we will see that the heading isn't available, nothing on the PFD is showing. So in order to change that, we need to go right to the top of the overhead panel, and you'll see the ADIRs here. So you have 3 switch knobs. So you want to turn the first ADIR 1 there, ADIR 1 sit nav, then ADIR 2 on the far right, and then in the middle ADIR 3. What that will do is send a message to here saying IR initialization align in 7 minutes. So that gives us, it's quite a long time, and it's realistic to the real thing, but in 7 minutes what you can actually do is now go down to the MCDU, and what we can do is start setting that up. So you want to ignore that primary GPS loss and go to the initialization page, and this will be our first page. We'll be onto where we're flying from, where we're flying to. We could put in our alternative airport, which will be given on SimBrief. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, anything I do, I find on SimBrief, and it gives you everything you need to know for the MCDU to set up a flight from looking like this to ready to go, and the aircraft will follow it all the way. So you put your flight number in, you can make that up yourself, you don't find it on SimBrief, and the cost index, and also the cruise flight level. And if you just put the cruise flight level, it will give the temperature automatically. So yeah, we'll go into SimBrief. I'll show you actually from the beginning of SimBrief how to, it's not a full tutorial, just how to get the simple things you need for it. So yeah, we'll go there, into Chrome, go to SimBrief, That's my login. And we'll do a new flight. So, the airline we're flying is EasyJet, which has the code EZY, and we can make up our own flight number. If you want to, you can find one from real life. I'm not sure this is a real life route, so we'll make our own up, which is 152 for now. So, we're departing Paderborn, which is let me just find out. If you don't know the ICAO code for airport, you can just type in the airport name and then ICAO. And what it will give you is here. So the ICAO is Echo Delta Lima Papa, and it gives you it there. So if you don't know, it's how it's really easy to find anyway. So it's Echo Delta Lima Papa, and we're flying to Liverpool today, which is Echo Golf Golf Papa. And then our alternate is Echo Golf Lima Lima, which is London. We can then choose our airframe type. They don't have the 320 Neo, but they do have the 320. So we have to just choose that. Here we have all the routing for it. So what departure runway is, the arrival runway. You have to remember that because it doesn't give you it once you generate it, the flight plan. So you have to remember you're departing from that whatever runway you're departing from and whatever runway you want to arrive on. And I believe they're accurate to wind direction at that time that you generate it. I believe. I'm not entirely sure though, so don't take a word on it. And then if you scroll a bit further down, you'll see your departure from your departure airport, then your routing, and then at the end, your arrival into whatever airport you want to arrive into. Today it's Liverpool for me, so my arrival into Liverpool. So yeah, once you've checked all that, you can go to the top here and generate OFP. Yes. Just give it a couple of seconds and it will generate. There you are. So, your block fuel will be given there. It's for the 320 without, not the Neo, the normal one. So it'll always overestimate how much you need. If you want to be safe, you can always put that number. If you want to be a bit closer to reality, you can. I always minus about 1,000 kilograms that you don't need. And I've never run out of fuel yet, so it should work. Also, that's your routing now. So what we can now do is we'll just minimize this. Send it over here. And we... Oh, brilliant. It's not going to let us have it, is it? You're better off doing it on a laptop or something, where you can look at both screens at once rather than going back and forth between them. What I will do is I'll go and get my laptop, fill it in, and I will come back and do it using that so I'm not flicking between the screen. I'll be 2 minutes. I have sorted that. It's on my laptop now. So, what you want to do is do the from and to first. So this is what airport you're flying from and which airport you're flying to. And make sure that you put the slash between them just to keep the formatting right, otherwise it won't recognise it. So what you want to do is do, for me today it's Paderborn, which is Echo Delta Lima Papa. So you put that in, put the slash which is down here at the bottom, and then Echo Golf Golf Papa. Then what you want to do is click on there, and it will send you to this page. Just click return. This is for, in real life, companies would have set routes planned into it, and this route may or may not be on it, depending on how often they fly it. But obviously on this flight simulator, they don't have it here, so just click return, and it will save there. Our alternate airport for today is Heathrow, which is Echo Golf Lima Lima. Our flight number is Echo Zulu Yankee 152. Now, our cost index, what I'll show you on here, which a lot of people never know how to find. So if you go down, below the map, actually I'll just expand this a little. Below the map, and you go to the paperwork review, you'll see your flight number, you'll see your route, you'll see what plane you basically have all the information you put in. Here, you'll see CI, Charlie India, 5. So your cost index will be 5 for this flight. It differs every flight, so don't always assume it's going to be the same, and it's always found there. So you can enter that into your cost index, and then your cruise altitude is found just on the side here. It says cruise flight level 340. So all you need to do in this sim is hit 340, and I'll put it in for you, and I'll tell you you're flying at -50, roughly. Then you want to go to the IRS inits page, and then just align on reference there, and then return. So you can now click these 2 arrows here, the sideways arrows. If you hit that once, doesn't matter which one, you can click both. And the easiest way to do this, you can try and put it in yourself. I've always had an issue where it says format error. If you just hit the button on next to it and hit it again, so it'll come up down here, then hit it again, it'll put it in for you, and that's really accurate to what it is right now. So that's probably, you're better off doing that, I think. And then you want to do block, which is block fuel on board, and you can find that literally if you look up. There you are, 5.3 tons, sorry. So you just want to put that in there. There you go, it fills the rest in for you. So, we can now go to the flight plan page, and you're going from Echo Delta Lima Papa, and then you can click departure. We're departing from runway 24 using the Hotel Mike 8 Whiskey departure, which is this one here. If it works. There we are. So it'll come up in your SID, which is the standard instrument departure. And I'll show you on here actually once we're here. So it'll give you this departure here, so you're departing from there. And once we start putting in waypoints, once I insert that, it should, there you see, then that gives us our departure here, and flies us to HMM, which is our first waypoint here. So that just gives you the departure basically. It's really quite simple, and it helps a lot. So yeah, we can then go to Hotel Mike, which is our first waypoint. If you click on that, and then go to Airways, we can now plug in the route for today. So you click on that. So it's via the departure to HMM. We can then go, so basically on the left you're going to have all your airways, and on the right you're going to have your waypoints. Airways are basically highways or motorways in the skies. All aircraft follow them. They have different routes, all pretty much standard. So if we have planes flying from northern England to Eastern Europe, it'll probably follow the same airway every time, most times. And basically the idea of it is to separate all the aircraft and keep them within a safe distance to each other. So on the left it's airways, so on your, I'll pop the sim brief, my flight plan, down here when I'm editing, so you can kind of follow it as I'm putting it in. My first waypoint is Uniform Lima 602. So just type that in there and click that. Sometimes like this, perfect example, it doesn't show up, which isn't an issue because you can just type in your next waypoint, which is Romeo Kilo November, and it should, I would say direct, which is fine, or it'll give you the airway you just put in. Either way it'll work. I have noticed it takes a bit of time though to do its thing. There you are. So another example here is it has given us, because of VOR, it has given us a number of them at different points around the globe at different coordinates. The easiest one to look at is the longitudinal coordinate, the north. Basically, you can kind of figure out whereabouts you are. Anywhere northern Europe is around N52 here, and so you have two of them. So both of these exactly match up, and I found it's always the one closest to you, which is on top. So if you get confused, the best one to go for is the one on top. What you can do once you've typed that in, or once you've hit that in, you can then go to your VFR map and just make sure it is, there we are, Romeo Kilo November. And that has gone to the right one now. So we can carry on with our flight plan. My next airway is Uniform Papa 199. And that will be to PAM, Papa Alpha Mike. And that is another VOR, so it might give us some coordinate. Yep, there you are. So you can kind of see now these two, that's really close to where the RKN VOR was, so you know it's going to be that one, again, the top one. They can fly then to Uniform Lima 980. And that will be to Idrid. Then we'll be jumping on the Uniform Mike 40. There we go, we're jumping on the it should be that. We don't know where this at yet. So sometimes, because the air rack for this on SimBrief is from 1903, I think, so it's, yeah. So it is way over about 118 years old as of now. So it's pretty outdated, and all these are up to date, I think. So sometimes it's not really perfect. So if the airway doesn't work, don't worry. You can just put in and go direct to the next waypoint, which is, for me, is Rinnis. And hopefully that'll work. Yeah, like that. Oh, and it's showing up too, so. Usually you should be able to use these arrows to then scroll to your next page if you've run out of space on this one. But on the A32NX you need to go to temporary insert, then you need to go scroll down to your last waypoint, which was Rinnis, click on it again and go to airways, and you can start again, or start from where you left off, which is M40 to Idesi. And then we're going to go Yankee 6 to Banem. And as you fly more and more, you will start to recognise different waypoints and think, oh, I've different VORs, and think, oh, I've been there before, and you kind of get an idea then of where you're going to be flying over on your flight. It all comes with practice and time, I guess, isn't it? It takes quite a long time to learn everything you need to know. And one thing I have found is you never stop learning. You're always learning new things. Everyone's still learning. So I won't feel disheartened if you're looking at this and thinking, what is going on? It's kind of just like a learning curve, and once you've got it, it becomes pretty monotonous. Like every single time you want to set up a flight, you're doing the same thing, just different waypoints and different airways and different airports as well. It's kind of almost if you had a format and you just follow that, putting your own numbers, you're always going to get the right answer, aren't you? So it's just a matter of learning it. So our next one is Digso, sorry. And that'll be Uniform Mike 185. To Bravo Papa Kilo. And this is the VOR again, so sometimes it's more than one, sometimes not, but for that one there's only one. And then whenever it says DCT, I'll just show you one here. Whenever it says DCT on your flight plan, that means direct to, or direct. So you direct to Welling from BPK. So you don't need to put that as a waypoint. It's just go to here and just type in Welling. You can find W. And then just enter it there, and it'll come up with direct. So again, we're doing the same one. We know it's North 52, and it'll say direct there. So you can temporarily insert that, and then go down to Welling and Airways again. We're nearly there now. So we T420 is our airway to TNT, which is another VOR, and because I've been doing it for a while, flying in the northwest of England, I know that's near Manchester Airport. And then, yeah, that is done now, so we can click return. So once you've got to the end, and once you got to here, and you see the last one is usually going to be an arrival. So if it's got a number in it, sorry, separating the letters, you know that's going to be your arrival. Similar here. So it's a Kegu to be approach, an arrival into Liverpool. So yeah, don't try and put that in on the flight plan page. You need to go to a different page for that, which I'll show you now. So once you've put in your flight plan, you go back to the flight plan page, and you'll see from and destination. Your from has a runway there, 24. However, your destination doesn't have a number next to it. So what you want to do is go into destination, and then top left is arrival, and we're going to be on the ILS for runway 09. And it was the Kegu 2B approach. Yeah, it's here. So you just go down your stars and try and find the right one, which is there. And we'll do it via. Yeah, we'll do it via that one. The standard one gives us bid and tell and some brief. So there we go. And now you'll see that Liverpool, the destination, that's 09NX, which is our ILS runway for today. So now, if you want to go back to your main view, you'll see that our navigation page is now aligned, all the iOS is aligned, so we can now see where we're going. If we turn on the flight director, turn off the constraint info. Oh, sorry, turn on the constraint info, so you can see it. It highlights the constraints around the different waypoints, the speed and altitude constraints. Then we can head to this turn knob here, and see at the moment we're on arc, which is relating to this screen. Well, if you scroll one up on your mouse or click to turn it clockwise, you go to plan. Now from plan, you can go to your flight plan page, and if you hit these up and down arrows, the up arrow, it will take you through your flight plan on there, and what you can do is just make sure there's no discontinuities or anything. So you can see it going all the way to Liverpool. This is my approach over Liverpool into, so that one's fine. So you just do that, make sure everything kind of connects up and it looks alright. Another way you can check is going to the VFR map and it'll come up by there. So you can kind of see if that looks right. There you are, and it looks perfectly like the one on here. So you can now close that. You can turn this back to arc. And that's the range, but you want to set the range because you can see the runway and everything here. You probably change the range once you get past 10,000 feet, I would. So yeah, now what we can do is turn on the APU page, and we can also start the APU up because it takes a couple of minutes to get ready. At this point we can turn on the strobe and beacon lights, make sure everything else is pressed, which it is. And then we can come back down and you go back to your MCDU. So now we can go to the performance data, and if you want to put in your flap settings, so for me today it will be flaps 2, so you just put that there, and I want to flex, so flex to temp. It's quite a difficult concept and I only understand it very basically, but when you put whatever temperature you put in there is the temperature you're telling the engines what it is outside, so almost the ambient temperature. So when you start the takeoff roll, rarely the pilots will ever put it into toga, which is takeoff go around mode, which is the highest power setting on the engines. Rarely they'll do that. Most of the time they'll use flex to temp. So basically you put it into man flex SRS when you're taking off, which is just here, flex MCT. You put it so you can kind of see the difference there, and what that does is limits the engines in how much power they give. Now obviously if you're going to fly from a really long runway and your aircraft's really light, you're not going to need toga. So what you do is put a high flex temp ratio, high flex temperature in here. And what that gives us is the engines will think it's a lot hotter than what it actually is, and therefore won't power up as much, and it just basically continues the life of the engines a lot longer than what using toga every takeoff would do. As you don't need all that power of toga to take off from that really long runway. Now today, Paderborn's not exactly a short runway, so we'll just, I think there is some way you can find it, and I'll try and find it if anyone wants to ask, but for today, kind of guesstimating, I will use about flex to temp 50, as we're not flying in the real world. And then we can set our transition altitude. Every single country has the different one, but in this, in Germany and the UK, I think it's 6,000 feet. You'll be able to find it online, whatever country you want to fly in, but so then now we have our V1, VR and V2 speeds. So what you can do, as you don't get the V speeds here, is you can go online, type in V-speed calculator A320, and you'll be able to find a number of websites which, if you put your information of the aircraft into it, will give you the V-speeds for that particular takeoff. So V1, here the point of no return, VR, which is rotation speed, and V2, which is very shortly follow VR. So put it into the calculator, all your information, which you'll be able to find in the sim. You can then go back down to your MCDU, and it will give you your takeoff speed, And actually at the same time I did work out my flex temperature, which was 54 instead of 50. So the take, so I will have a V1 speed of 134. I'll have a VR speed of 138 and a V2 speed of 139. So you put that all in there, and that should take off. It will come up on the side. I'll show you once we go into the takeoff phase. So yeah, there we are. The MCDU is all set up. You can forget about that absolute nonsense now, and we can move on to something a bit more interesting. So, we are now ready to start up our engines and leave. As you can see, we started the APU before, which I didn't tell you about actually. I'm not sure. So if you start the APU, you click the master switch there and then the start switch. Once you've done that, it'll take a while and that'll stay on, which is the blue light. And you'll want to switch to the APU page, which is this one here, which is green for me now. And you will see that the EGT temperature, exhaust gas temperature, will start rising and rising and rising. It'll go to about 900 possibly, and then it'll come back down and stabilise around here. And once you look up, you'll see that the start is now available. So then you can, once that's available, you can go to the APU bleed and turn that on, and you'll hear more fans turning on, more. I'll let you listen. There you are. So now we can turn off the external power because we don't need that anymore. And we are now ready to go. So airports like this, you have the pushback tugs here, and that's alright because when you got in that pushback tug, you can go into the air traffic control thing, go into ground services, tune to ground, and you can request the pushback here. Now, that's all well and good, but sometimes some airports don't have this option. You can't do that. So the easiest way to do it, I find, is just to click Shift P, and you can see the tug starts moving towards me now. So whilst we do that, we can now start our engines. On the Neo, you start them first, then second. First engine, then second engine, because of the way the hydraulics are laid out. So what we can do is go to our fuel pumps, turn on all the fuel pumps that are off. So basically you want to be left with no white lights on the overhead panel now. In a minute we'll feel a little tug on the aircraft, and that's when we're set. There you are. So we can now release the parking brake, which is just down here. I've got it set to my bind it to one of my keys on my yoke there. Once you turn on the fuel pumps, you can turn the engine mode selector to ignition start, which is to the right, and then you just click, leave it about 5 seconds, and then start engine 1. You will now see N2 rising percentage, you'll see EGT rising, and then the M1 will start rising. And the M1 will settle around 19 point something. And that's when you'll know that the first engine started. You'll hear a barking noise too, which is a very obvious indicator that it started. That barking noise indicates the hydraulics and everything that's being pumped around the aircraft. So you obviously know when it started then. And just to stop the pushback, you press Shift P. So yeah, well, as we wait for this to rise, you'll see temperatures going up and the M1 rising. You can hear the engine starting going on now. And whilst that's doing that, we can turn on the weather radar, which is these got these two buttons here. So this one's the weather radar, so you want to switch that on to the left, and that gives us weather on this navigation screen. That's the barking we're looking for. So once you hear that, you can just double check that the M1 is 19.5. N2 settled around 58.1 and the exhaust gas temperature settled around 470. Once you've done that, you can then start engine 2. So you want to have the weather radar on, and then the predictive wind shear system, which is this PWS button here, to auto. And that's it. You want to switch your squawk to, or your ATC to auto, and your TCAS to TARA, which is all the way over here, the furthest right setting. In real life, they would give you a squawk code, which you can enter using the little keypad here, and they'll give you that number there. We're not using ATC, so we don't need it. So we come back to our engines. You can see that engine 2 is now starting up. We can switch this back to fuel. So that's another thing of the A32NX. It's given access to a lot more of these screens now, so you can see the bleed. You can see, you can't see the pressure. This is the fuel, the door page, which tells you if it's orange, it's open, if it's green, it's shut. The nose wheel, and the flight control. So if I do full left, you can see on here, everything moving, full right, and you can also see the little crosshairs here. So full down, you can see the elevators moving, and full up, you can see them moving again. And then the rudder, full left, you can see the rudder moving here, and full right, you can see it moving again. Tow brakes, you can see here, moving. So yeah, now we know our engine started, they're both stable at 19.5. So then we can now turn the engine mode selector to back to normal. We can turn off the APU and APU bleed, the master switch and the bleed, and that leaves us just our engines powering the aircraft. We can turn on our wing exterior lights and also our taxi lights. You don't want us to touch the landing lights yet, those are only needed when you go enter the runway. Once that's all off, depending on the weather, so today it's a bit cloudy, and it'll make some ice build up on the aircraft. So what you want to do is go to the anti-ice, which is these 4 buttons here, and just want to turn them on. And that makes sure that no ice builds up, especially the pitot tube, which gives you your speed and altitude. That freezes up. The aircraft doesn't actually know what speed it's going, and it can be quite catastrophic. So that's, if any kind of like any safety advice would be to have that always on anyway, especially on the sim, maybe not in real life, but just to make sure that you're not spending 6 hours on a flight and then you crash because the aircraft